Hey, what's up? Quattro here, and today we're going to be taking a look at how to model a pencil in 3ds Max. Now you're probably wondering, like, why do I need to model a pencil or whatever? You never know. Anyway, the reason why I'm doing this tutorial, even though there are some on YouTube already, is because they spend about half an hour showing you how to do something like something like this, or something like this. There you go. And basically they spent about half an hour doing that. So, I mean, they probably don't look half bad, but it's not my taste anyway. So, what I'm gonna try to do is show you a little bit more realistic pencil modelings, and basically what we're gonna be creating is something like this, which I created in about 20 minutes when I was bored. We're gonna have these nice ridges here, which come from a pencil being a hexagonal shape and then being sharpened to a cone. We're also gonna have these weird lines here that give the wood texture some irregularity. And we're also going to be creating the materials for it. So let's fire up 3ds Max and let's get started. So the first thing that you want to do is create a cylinder with 6 sides and no height segments. So just quickly gonna create a cylinder like so. I'm gonna rotate it 90 degrees to one axis. There you go. And I'm gonna move it to the 0 position. And I'm also gonna turn off the smoothing because I don't need it. So the next step is to add an edit poly. Have some fun with it. Probably make the pencil a little bit longer. But not now, because it'll screw up my camera. And again, I don't know why Edit Poly did that, but I don't want any smoothing. So away you go. So I'm gonna delete that polygon there because I'm not gonna need that, and I'm gonna delete this one as well. There we go. So the next step is to select all the outer edges except for the inside ones, as you can see. And we're gonna take these edges by control clicking the edge selection. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click on connect and give it 5 segments. Yeah. So that's what it's doing right there. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a cone, which is gonna be my reference for the pencil tip. Like so. 1 height segment, and the side count is basically going to be whatever the sides you have here. In my case, we have 6 sides for that hexagon and 6 edges each, so that makes it 6 by 6, 36. Easy enough. It's not university mathematics there, so don't be scared. So I'm just going to rotate that, probably scale it up a little bit, like so. Make the pencil a little longer, whichever. And the next step is to go to the front view, and we want the cone to basically be the same size of our hexagon. So I'm just going to scale that up real quick here. There you go. And obviously it's not aligning, so I need to move my cone to the 0 position and probably scale it down just a little bit. There we go. done and done. Doesn't need to be perfect. It's basically just a reference. And then I'm gonna press Alt X to enter the X-ray mode, so I can see through this cone here. And here comes the interesting part. We're gonna create those little arcs that result in a pencil being sharpened. So this is the reference cone, like I said, and we're gonna use that as our reference. So I'm gonna quickly pick all those edges here using a border selection. Control click to convert that to an edge selection. And what I want to do is I want to unselect the corner edges because I only need the middle 4 ones. So I'm gonna quickly unselect, deselect actually, the corners. There we go. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna use the reference cone to move these forward. As you can see, you have a clear line where the cone is intersecting with your things. So that's what we're going to be recreating. So what I want to do is first take this edge selection here, and I want it to go up until that point where the edge is intersecting with where that edge is intersecting with my selection, so to about right there. And what I want to do is I want this vertex to match that edge there, and I want it to be the same on all the sides. That's quite tedious if you want to do it just by hand. So a quick tip is to change the reference coordinate system to local, and take the scale tool, and there you go. We're not screwing anything up, and done and done. Perfection. So what I want to do now is I'm going to deselect the next edges in line, so to speak, the next extreme edges. Just gonna be left with the 2 middle ones. In my opinion, deselection is always easier than selection, so this is why I'm deselecting. So again, the same thing. We're gonna move it forward and match it with the point where it intersects with the edge of the cone reference. There you go. And again, scale it down just a tad to match the edges. There we go. And then we're just gonna take the vertex selection and we're gonna take the middle vertices. Oh wow, it looks like I've let's try it again. Okay, the move tool kind of screwed everything up. It was on local, so let's quickly do it again. Right there, and the scale has to be on local, so right about there. Good. And vertex selection, middle vertices. That's easy enough, isn't it? And there we go. That's 6 verts. And we're just gonna move them forward to the point where it intersects with the reference cone, which is about there. So that's pretty much about it. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take the whole charade here and I'm gonna move it forward with by holding shift. That creates a copy of the edge loop. I'm gonna move it forward again, further now, And what we want to do now is we want to flatten that selection here. So I'm going to click on Z to flatten that out. If it doesn't flatten out for you, you might have to try another axis. But for me, it's Z in this case. And I'm going to just use my vertex snapping to snap to the reference cone's end. And I'm going to get back to the view, and I'm going to scale everything down. Scale it down, scale it down, scale it down. And I'm going to control convert that to a vertex selection, and I'm going to click on weld. So I just went from 36 vertices here, see? Weld, just one vertex. Easy. So what I'm going to do now is probably take this whole selection here, and I'm going to use my slice plane to go and make a slice next to the ending of this here pencil. See about there? Slice. I'm going to make one slice about there. And I might want to make one slice there. The reason I'm making all these slices is because I want my geometry to be turbo smoothable. So I'm going to add another loop there as well. There you go. So what we can do now is we can delete the reference cone. We don't need it anymore. And there you go. Well, if you don't want your model to be turbo smoothed, you can just skip adding these extra edges. So your finished model would probably be something like, say, like that, where you just take one group here, smooth it out, and then take the other group, leave it as is, and that's about it. So, you know, but in my case, I want it to be turbo smoothable, so I'm going to do it like that. So the way that we finish off the pencil is real simple. We're just going to take that, and we're going to create, just move it about, create a finished length of the pencil, which I think would be about there, more or less. I'm going to drag it once, I'm going to drag it twice, 3 times, and then I'm going to use the scale tool, scale it down once, scale it down twice, and I'm going to cap it. There you go. So what I can do now is I can take the turbo smooth, slap in a couple of iterations, done and done. There you go, look at that. On the pencil tip it stays sharp, and those ridges there, they're perfectly nice. Now if you want your pencil to be sharper on the edges, all you gotta do is just add more segments. In my case I used 6, but you can use 8, 10, whichever you feel comfortable with, and the steps are exactly the same, so you're not gonna have to do anything different. So now we're gonna get into the texturing part of this tutorial. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna select my polygons up until the middle edge here, because basically the middle edge is this sharp edge here, thanks to how the turbo smooth works. And I'm gonna give it an ID. Now actually I'm gonna select everything, and I'm gonna give it just one ID, right? And then I'm gonna select that selection that I had previously. I'm gonna give it ID2. This is basically in the edit poly mode, polygonal material IDs. Simple as that. So I'm going to give it 2 IDs. So basically, the tip is ID 1, 1 ID, and the rest of the pencil is ID 1, which is the outer shell. So that's the end of that. And now we're going to do some material creation. So I'm going to press M for material editor. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to be using a multi-sub-object material. Click OK. And I'm going to set the number of materials to whatever the number of IDs I have, which in my case is 2. Click OK. And ID 1 material is going to be the shell material. And in my picture there, I've used just a quick plastic preset from Mental Ray Arc and Design. So I'm going to do the same for the sake of this tutorial. Just create an Arc and Design. It was a matte plastic material. I'm going to be creating a red pencil. So I'm going to create a red color, but for the shell I'm just going to desaturate that to about 70% or so. Click OK. And for the ID 2, which is basically our tip, I'm going to create this weird material, which is going to be a blend material. And what it allows us to do is use the same ID, but use a mask or a mixing curve to blend 2 different materials together. So instead of assigning a different ID to the pencil tip and playing around with that, I'm going to use a texture to basically control where my pencil tip is. So material 1, let's create something like Arc and Design material. And again, for the pencils that I had here, is just basically a plastic preset, nothing more than that. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to create a glossy plastic. And again, red color, full saturation. That's it. And for the material 2, I'm gonna do the same that I did on my image, is create an Arc and Design material and select a template for satin varnished wood. So that's that. And basically now I can apply this whole material. Okay, so you can see we have the shell being a desaturated red, but the pencil itself, even if I render it out, I'm going to quickly render out, it's fully red. So how do we fix that? It's a problem with the blend material because we didn't send a mask. So what I made in Photoshop earlier was a quick mask. Basically this is just a black and white image, and it's going to control where my pencil tip is going to be. And it's really easy to create in Photoshop. What I did was create a square, a black square, and then I masked out using the rectangular marquee the bottom. I masked out the bottom, and then I used the smudge tool to create these irregularities. So I'm just gonna drag and drop that texture there. So if I take a look at my material here, we can see that the tip of the pencil would now be wood, and a quick fix to that is just swapping the material. Quick and easy. However, the material itself now looks a little weird because the wood is too dark, it's tiling, and you know, it's not going to look like a pencil. So let's fix that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the wood texture here. I'm going to set the tiling to about 8 or so in one axis, which is going to make it a lot more narrow. And I set the other tiling axis to about 0.2, which is going to stretch it like so. So what I want to do now is click on the bitmap here because our wood is too dark. So I'm going to use a color correction node, and I'm going to keep all map as a submap. And this color correction node, what it allows us to do is change the brightness, contrast, saturation, hue, tints, whatever for the texture without going into Photoshop and creating a new one. So I'm going to boost up the brightness for it. I'm going to boost up the contrast, probably about there. Boost up the brightness a little bit more. I'm going to desaturate it. And I'm going to shift the hue probably about there. Now that looks kind of pencilish. So let's take a look at what we get when we render. And again, there's going to be a problem. It's going to render just the wood and nothing else. And also that wood is not aligning with our pencil. So why is that? Well, since we modeled that object from scratch, we do not have any texture coordinates for it. So we're going to have to create some. So I'm going to get back into Edit Poly. Again, select all these polygons that I want to texture. And I'm going to apply a UV map, which is a pretty simple modifier to create quick texture coordinates. So I'm going to use a cylindrical map, and that's all I need to do. I can turn the Turbo Smooth back on, and if I render now, ta-da! You see what we're getting. We're getting the pencil, we're getting the wood. Well, obviously you would want to use another wood texture from, say, cgtextures.com or something like that. But for the sake of this tutorial, with absolutely no additional work, we've created something really simple. I mean, it doesn't look half bad. And if you want, you can also create a couple of more pencils like that. Go back to the material editor, go back to the root, create a copy of that, say pick a green color there, and pick a green color for the blend like so. Probably copy it one more time, rename it, maybe make it blue, like that, and go back to another material and make that blue as well. What this allows us to do is have different color pencils with almost no additional work. And if you set up the scene properly with all the lighting and everything, and maybe an environment, HDR, whatever, I mean, this can look really nice. And the rendering engine that I used for this image was iRay, so I had the depth of field for no additional cost, so in render time, so that's kind of cool. So there you go, we've created a realistic pencil. So hopefully you've learned something from this tutorial, and it was kind of a long one. It's running at about 24 minutes right now, something like that. So again, hopefully you've learned something today and you've enjoyed the tutorial. Hopefully my voice or my techniques weren't too annoying, so you know, if you've enjoyed this tutorial, please do share it with somebody that might be interested in 3D, whatever. Please do check out my other tutorials, and please subscribe for more content in the future. Seriously, please do subscribe. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time.